Mags, very, very fired up to have you on the show. Welcome to the Spark, Dave Magadan. I'm Daniel Robertson, and just thank you for coming on today, Mags.
It's absolutely my pleasure to be on with you, DR. We go back a long way, and it's anything I can do to help get some information out there to the fans. It's whatever I can do. We got to do it different ways nowadays, so let's get going.
Let's just get started with kind of, you played 16 years in the big leagues. I'm going to butcher the time that you've been as a coach, so I'll let you fill that in because I don't know the exact date when it started. I just know the 16 years that you played because it was really fun to go back and watch you as a player.
Well, yeah, you're right. I played 16 years in the big leagues. I coached from 2003 until last year. I think this was going to be my 32nd season in the big leagues and the 16th as a coach, as a major league coach. I did coach 1 year in the minor leagues as the hitting coordinator with the San Diego Padres. And I really enjoyed that job. It was the first time I was at home in the summer, and since I was in college. So it was something that I really enjoyed, and being able to work with all the guys in the organization, and so it was a good entree for me to get into coaching. But after 1 year doing that, I was asked to be the major league hitting coach with the same team I just got done playing with 2 years before. So that was a little bit strange.
Right. Baseball has a funny way of bringing things full circle and making things seem weird, but also creating magnificent stories at the same time. And I think that's what, I'm drawn to you, the stories that you were able to share with me my rookie year and really changing the course of my career. I was a journeyman. I never really got a crack at the major leagues, and I got my first crack with you guys. And I just thought how special it was to be able to learn from you and all the information you were able to share, as well as teach me how to watch some of the guys that you were working with.
Well, thank you. I always took pride because I was never a superstar as a player. I had, maybe 3 or 4 years where I was able to play every day. I made my niche as being a guy that can hit off the bench and maybe play twice a week and still be productive. So I always had, a good relationship with those guys that weren't going to be in there every day. Obviously, I've got to coach everybody on the team. But I've always taken the tack that I'm only as good a hitting coach as the 25th guy on the roster. And it's my job to make everybody better. And whether you're the superstar David Ortiz or Prince Fielder or Adrian Beltre or Manny Ramirez, I still got to work with all the guys and make them the best that they can be. And I felt like the hitting coaches that I had that made an impact on me were the ones that took the time to try and make me better, as well as the best guy on whatever team I was playing on. And so that's always the angle I took with players. I wanted to try and make everybody better. Didn't matter who it was, and I tried to make time for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, and that's rare. Especially in today's game, I think it's very easy to hook your name on the trailer of the next superstar and hopefully ride the wave into your own personal success. But that's why, again, having you on here and being able to spread that knowledge, not only to young kids, but maybe the next wave of hitting coaches or young hitting coaches that want to get into the game. But we could go down that route, but I want to get into your playing days because when I was playing for you, I feel the stories that you had, I didn't really have any context, but to go back and really dive in and sit on YouTube for hours and find whatever I could, whether it was an interview on Kilner's Corner, describing your 4-for-4 day in Wrigley and showing some highlights. And I just think that's special because that is the one thing that I think when you start talking about, old school baseball, it's not really old school. It's played a little more efficient. I think, in my selfish personal opinion of the game. It's more efficient. It's cleaner. There's a lot more pride. But seeing the video of it, obviously you didn't play. It wasn't grainy to you. It wasn't. It wasn't black and white. It was just like it is today. It's normal. And so watching you play, you had extremely high on base percentage. And was that something that you always took pride in, or who did you model your game after when you were a kid growing up watching?
I don't know if I ever really modeled it after somebody, but I know my dad, who was the one that would take me and my brother out to take batting practice, even in the off season when everybody else was playing football and basketball, we were still going out there at least once a week taking BP. And my father always instilled in me, get a good pitch to hit, swing at strikes. You're not going to be a good hitter if you swing at balls. I remember being a guy that hit the ball to all fields because it was just my father, myself, and my brother. So my brother would shag when I was hitting. Mm-hmm. So I liked to try and make him mad by hitting the ball all over the field. When he was hitting, he was the right-handed hitter. So he was pulling everything because my dad was laying him in there. I wanted to tick him off a little bit, so I would hit balls to left, right, make him run around and field all the balls. So I think those two ingredients right there were the big reason why I always felt like swinging the strikes was really important. But I never, I think when I would get into trouble if I went up there thinking about a walk or trying to work a walk, I think that's a very passive way to go up to the plate and hit. And when I would do that, I would find myself falling into that, and I had to really make a conscious effort to go up there and still be aggressive and still look for good pitches to hit, but be aggressive in my zone. And so it just kind of, it evolved into me being the type of hitter I was. I was a high on base guy, didn't hit for power, hit for a good average. That was kind of my niche. It got me a lot of, big league time, and I wasn't an everyday player for most of my career, but I did get a lot of at bats, and it was my niche. But it was my niche only because that's where I grew up, and it eventually evolved into what it became as a big league player.
Yeah, you kept polishing it kind of day in and day out sort of thing. Because there was a video that popped up where you're facing Goose Gossage in a game again at Wrigley. And I think it might have been a little wet, but he grooves you through fastballs down the middle. They're a little up, but, as we both know, the strike zone can change at any moment. Yeah. They look like strikes, but you know what? You took them so calm. They were probably top of the zone, what more today would be called, high spin rate up in the zone. And you took them so I don't even want to use the word passive because it wasn't passive. It was as if when his arm went back, you were checked off. You were like, it's going to be a ball. I'm not even on it. And then I think he grooves you one down the middle, and then he misses again, and then you get to 3-1, and then you bang a line drive right through the middle. Krispy Kreme Carter comes in to score. But it's that at bat when I get to see is I can put into context how it was that you played. And I thought that was awesome.
Well, I prided myself, like we talked about it, knowing the strike zone, knowing the lanes of the strike zone, not only, in, middle, away, but even up, down. And I distinctly remember that at bat because I think that was my only at bat ever against Goose.
At bat 1,000 against Goose. I hope he never sees this video.
Yeah, well, I see him occasionally, and he obviously doesn't remember my bat against him, but I've talked to him about that at bat. It had two distinctions. It was my only at bat against Goose, and it was the first night game ever played at Wrigley.
Was it really?
Yeah, because the night before the Phillies were playing, I believe, a Thursday night game, and they got rained out. They were going to be the first night game. So we ended up going into Chicago. I think it was a Friday night or whatever the first game of the series was, and we had a night game. So we ended up being the first night game ever at Wrigley. So those are the two things why I remember that at bat.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
that's bad. I love that.
yeah. So, Goose, back then, no advanced scouting reports, right? All you had was word of mouth from guys on the bench. So, never faced Goose before, knew that he threw hard, knew he could spray it around the zone a little bit. So I probably talked to one of the guys on the bench, and I distinctly remember, hey, you got to get him down because his fastball up in the zone, even though he doesn't throw as hard as he used to, it still has good velocity. It can get on you. It gets off your barrel, get the ball down. And that's probably why I took those fastballs in the upper
Yeah.
part of the zone.
Yeah,
And try to
absolutely.
get them
Started
down where I
up.
can handle them. But it's funny you bring that about it. I don't remember a ton of at bats from the big leagues, but that's one especially just one at bat against a guy. So
Well, it's that birthday intuition. I mean, us being born on the same day, just
absolutely,
certain times
we're
apart.
right there with each other.
I knew which at bat you were going to remember and which you weren't. That's just on that wavelength. And
Absolutely.
I just it led me down the road. And of course, something I didn't know. I knew you played for the Mets. I knew what teams you played for, but I think I never put two and two together. That holy cow, Mags has got a ring with the Mets when they won it in '86. And for the youngsters out there, if you get a chance to go watch it. In the most dramatic World Series probably in the history of World Series, outside of the one that you were a part of, where it was involved with it was the 13 series against the Cardinals, where we had balls getting thrown down the line, ending the game.
Yeah, I wasn't a part of that one though.
That wasn't – it was 13 – oh, you were 7. You were in
I
7.
was 07, yeah.
You were 07.
13,
You were
I
07.
was my first year in Texas.
Right. So I think outside of maybe that one is arguably the greatest and most back and forth World Series that I think anybody can imagine, other than the one against Texas and Cardinals, where legitimately Texas was one pitch away twice.
Yeah, one strike away.
Yeah, one strike away twice.
Yeah.
And on that team, you have, you got David Cohn, you got Darryl Strawberry, although you and Darryl Strawberry were similar in age. He was only like a year or two older than you, right? So you were pretty similar in age, but you had Gary Carter, you had George Foster. Was there one of those players that kind of helped you not get over that big league hump, but like when I was with the Rangers, Giovanni Soto, he just put his arm around me and took me under his wing and told me how I was supposed to be a pro, and everywhere I went, he was always on me. Was there one of those guys, or was it someone else on the roster, maybe Howard Johnson or one of those guys that took you under?
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple influential guys. It was tough. Back then, it wasn't like it is now where you're a rookie and, somebody takes you under the wing, they buy you clothes, they take you out to dinner. I was the only first-year player on that. My first full season in the big leagues, I was the only rookie on that team because obviously they had just won a world championship the year before, so there weren't a lot of changes other than letting Ray Knight sign as a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really a job that was to be won between me and Howard Johnson that '87 spring training for third base. So I was coming off '86 where I was a call-up. That's a whole nother story. I got a ring, but we didn't get a ring till like 10 years later. They didn't give everybody rings, even though we got called up and played in '86. We weren't eligible for the playoffs because I wasn't there before September 1st. So I got called up September 7th, I believe. So we didn't get rings. There was 4 of us that didn't get rings. And then finally, 10 years later, they relented and allowed us to get rings. But we had to pay for whatever the cost difference was from '86 to '96. So Randy Myers, one of the nasty boys, he was one of those guys that didn't get a ring. In '96, he was making a lot of money, and he flipped the bill for everybody's rings.
Oh, that's awesome.
Paid the difference for it. Yeah, it was fantastic. So that's kind of a side note to what happened in '86. So '87, really the only rookie on the team that year to start the year. But in '86, when I first got called up, Lee Mazzilli, I never forget, I got there the first day, and I went out on the field at Shea Stadium, and we had a doubleheader that day against the Padres, and I was just kind of out there looking at the stadium, seeing, you know, the triple deck, and you know, and just he could see that I was a little overwhelmed. Uh, so he put his arm around me. He goes, "Listen, you see those bases? You see that plate? You see the fence? It's all the same distances that you played all throughout your life, all throughout your career in the pro ball. It's still the same. It's still 90 feet. The pitcher's 60 feet 6 inches. You know, the fence is pretty much the same. The only thing that changes is everything outside the lines. Concentrate on what happens inside the lines, and you're going to be all right." And that was Lee Mazzilli. So I took that through my whole career, especially my first year in the big league, my first at bat in the big leagues, to just remember that and replay it over and over in my mind. It calmed me down.
That's awesome. And I think, you know, a new wave of the game where we talk about mindfulness and meditation and all those things, and they say it's the new wave. And I'm just a firm believer that mindfulness and meditation has been going on for years. Just the really good players, the ones that played baseball for a long time, were the only ones doing it. That's the difference, I think. Because
we didn't have the sports psychologists.
Yeah. You didn't, and you don't have the apps, and you don't have definitely. It's a trial by fire, because it's funny that you say that. You didn't have people to kind of take you in like it is now. And I think I would also be interested to know, when did you see that shift? Because I think as a kid, when I watched guys playing baseball, you know, I think you hit a home run against the Cubs, and it was in a Kilner Corner interview, and he asked you how, you know, you ran it, threw you a fastball in, and you hit a homer. What were you looking to do? And you were like, I was just looking to get a ground ball to second and get the guy over, and it was running in on my hands, and I just dropped a barrel and it went. And so when I hear those things, I just try to hit a ground ball to second. When I played with the Angels, I watched Albert getting shift, runner at second, and he rolls a 108 hopper that would have been a routine ground out to the second baseman, but he just shot it over there to move the guy over or to get a hit, whatever it was. But then he gets an RBI from it. And I'm thinking, the way the game is played nowadays, when did you see it start to shift? Because you were played in arguably one of the most competitive eras, and now you're coaching in this era. Did you see a distinct shift between the times?
Yeah, I don't know if it was one moment, but I think it just gradually evolved. You know, as guys started committing more towards preparing for the season year round. I think when I first got to the big leagues, guys were starting to make good money. But probably the previous 10 years, guys were still getting jobs in the off season to try and support their families, trying to make some money. When I got to the big leagues, I think the minimum salary was like 42.5 or 42,000. So we were just maybe 10 years removed from the minimum salary being 18,000 a year. So there were guys still working year round. Now, you know, as I got to the big leagues and started, you know, creating my career in the big leagues, guys started working out more. Weightlifting started coming into favor. Before, weightlifting was considered like taboo for baseball. Guys started lifting more in the off season, getting bigger, stronger, using all kinds of things to try and get bigger and stronger. So it became something that changed the way the game was looked at and how you were going to get paid. Strikeouts started going up, home runs started going up, batting averages started going down, and guys realized if they hit the ball out of the park, they were going to get paid. And so I think the training, the philosophical stuff mechanically started changing as guys started getting paid more and more for hitting the ball out of the park. So I think it gradually evolved to the point where it is now, where, you know, guys are routinely striking out 200 times, and and hitting for low averages and low on base and high slugging.
And do you think those, you know, I, we've had some great conversations. I know what WAR is. I know all those. I know most of the analytics that I'm trying to learn. But without any discrepancy or anything like that, do you really feel like that's the best approach to win a ball game?
No, I mean, I still think the good teams, the good offensive teams, are the ones that do the little things to help your team score runs. I think uh, the extent of moving runners over with outs, runners from second to third, runners from first and second with outs, uh, doing well with runner on third, less than 2 outs. To me, those are all stats that um, are usually pretty good tell of how good an offense is, a well-rounded offense, because I think it's not necessarily how many runs you score overall for the season or how many runs you score on average for the season, because you can score 18 and then get shut out and you're averaging 9 runs a game, but you only
Right.
won, one out of those 2 games. So I think it's how creative you can be offensively to score runs that keep you from the shutouts, the 1 or the 2 run games that are usually directly correlated to losing games when you score 2 or less runs, 3 or less runs, 4 or less runs. So the more you can get your offense generated to the point where you got a really good chance of scoring 4 or 5 runs every game, I think that gets directly has an impact on how many wins and losses you have. So in order to do that, especially nowadays with all the good pitching there is, and all the information that pitchers have and pitching coaches have to try and get hitters out, and scouting reports to help you put defenders in the right spot to get these hitters out, I think it's even more valuable for guys to be able to score, or teams to be able to score runs in different ways.
Absolutely.
And whether that's moving runners, having good at bats, taxing pitchers to get into bullpens, uh, working a walk when you can lead off an inning with a walk, speed, taking the extra base, uh, being able to lay down a bunt when it makes sense. All those things are ingredients to having a good offense, I think.
Absolutely. Like there's not one way to play the game. There's multiple ways to play the game, but it all, and I'm just I learned from you guys. And one thing that I took away when I went to my next places where I played was, surely you may not win every game, and surely maybe statistically you can't win them all, but you can sure try to win tonight. And if I'm always trying to win tonight, I think in the long run, I'll be able to do the things that I needed to do. And I felt the pillar that it had in Texas, where it had the 8 ways to have a Ranger at bat. I had never seen that in a professional organization before. I mean, surely I was only with the Padres, but I've also gone to several locker rooms and walked around stadiums. And then even after my rookie year, I don't think I've ever seen another expectation anywhere else that I have gone. I've seen ways to do it, but not a bought in, if you want to win baseball games as an offense, you got to have these things. You got to be able to perform these things, because this is what it means to be a big leaguer.
Yeah, I mean, there's you can break it down into 20 different categories, but basically, and this is kind of the way I went about it when I was playing. If I felt like if I swung at the pitches that I wanted to swing at, and I took the pitches I didn't want to swing at, I was probably going to have a pretty good at bat. And it's as simple as that. And I had Mark Grace as my assistant when I was with the Diamondbacks. And I asked him one day, Gracie, what's your definition of a successful at bat? He goes, swing at the strikes and take the balls. And it's as simple as that. And when you do that, you're going to hit the ball harder. You're going to walk. The walk is just going to happen. It's not something you go up there trying to take from the pitcher. It's accepting the walk from the pitcher. It's not swinging at what he wants you to chase and swing out of the strike zone on. It's swinging at the pitches that you want to swing at. It's swinging at the pitches in the zone that you're looking to swing at. And that's how we try and break it down with the Rockies. You know, we have two strike zones. We have the strike zone of pitches that the pitcher's trying to get you to swing at on the edge of the zone and out, and then the pitches in from both corners, up, down, and both sides, 2 to 3 inches in that heart of the plate. That's where we're looking to do damage. So we're doing damage in the heart of the plate, and we're taking the peripheral stuff, the stuff that the pitcher wants you to chase. And the exit velo on those pitches is, 60, 70 miles per hour. The exit velo on those pitches in the heart of the plate are 95 plus, 100 plus, and those are the pitches you're doing damage on.
Those are the balls that, with as hard as pitchers are throwing nowadays and as hard as the baseballs are. Oof.
And you know what? When you were a guy that high on base guy, you swing at strikes. When you're laser focused on that heart of the plate in from both corners, and you're focused on that, as soon as you see a pitch that's out of that almost that tunnel that you're looking at, it's almost you take it as a ball right out of hand, and you don't even offer at it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get something in that tube, that's what Manny Ramirez used to call it, the tube. I get a pitch in that tube, I don't miss it. If it's an out, it's going to be a hard out. But when your vision at the plate is 2 or 3 inches outside the strike zone to the middle of the strike zone, when your window is that big, you're going to miss pitches in the heart of the zone, and you're going to chase pitches out of the zone when your window is that big. When my window is small, less chance of chasing.
That makes perfect sense.
I'm going to chase.
Yeah, the bat only fits through, when I think of that, and I think I thought of it when I played for you, my bat is only so thick. So in that area, if I'm running my bat through that area, there ain't too good of a chance that you're going to miss my barrel, because the surface area isn't wide enough for my bat to miss anything in there. And I think I looked back at Fangraphs when I was done, and I saw, I think I was 97 point something % contact rate on a pitch that I swung at in the zone. So for me, you ain't missing that. But just like you said, now if you make that box bigger, that bat now has a lot of surface area to cover. And just physically, with physics, numbers are going to go down. It's pretty.
Yeah, you're going to swing and miss.
It's extremely simple, and I think that's the importance of today's time, is finding a way to get people to understand how simple this game needs to be. Because I think that's what drives me nuts sometimes, is people try to make it out that they have all the answers, but it's not that simple. Because my trap, my shoulder, whatever, getting in my hip, all those things are irrelevant if I don't know what I'm looking for, if I don't know what part of the ball I'm trying to hit, if I don't know what I'm attacking.
Well, because you played for a long time, it's very easy. Well, I shouldn't say it's easy. It's a little bit easier going to the cage and working on something mechanical that a player is going to buy in if it feels good right away. The buy-in's there, it feels better, ball's coming off the bat better. So it's always easier to make mechanical adjustments with a player, especially as a hitting coach, because it's tangible, right? It's something that they can feel right away. But when the problem is chasing out of the zone, you're very limited as to what you can do to help that player achieve that, right? It's hard to work on that. It's something that evolves over a long period of time. It's something that you're not going to get immediate results. Say a pitcher that's working on throwing more strikes, you can make a mechanical with adjustment with a pitcher, and now that ball's coming out of his hand better, and it's his movement is more in the zone. It's very tough with a hitter. So it's always hitters are always ready to buy into a mechanical adjustment because you can go immediately to the cage and work on it. And it's like, yeah, it feels good. And, do flips. Yeah, it feels good. When you're working on swinging at more strikes, and that's, let's face it, a lot of times when guys are struggling, hitting coaches and players alike try and always make it be about something mechanical. But when you look at the pitches that they're swinging at when they're struggling, they're usually pitches that are out of the strike zone or on the edge of the strike zone that they're not going to put in play hard anyway. Now, there could be mechanical things that are causing you to swing at those pitches. Maybe your swing got a little bit long and you got to make decisions sooner and all those things. But more often than not, the problem when guys are struggling is usually they're chasing pitches out of the zone.
I couldn't – it takes me right back to the start of my career, 2 for 20. I never forget it because I try to tell kids it's not really about getting to the big leagues and being good. It's about making your first adjustment when you get there. And I remember being 2 for 20 and you and I going to the cage, and I felt like from that moment on I hit off the tee, took a couple flips till I was good enough not to blow an oblique out. And then you would sit down and every single pitch that you would throw, whether it was off speed, curveball, fastball, it had a situation tied to it and a count tied to it. And that was in May, or that was late April, early May, 2 for 20. And then not playing, or playing sporadically, I think I hit 340 or something like that from that time all the way until August. In August, I think I hit almost 400 with a 500 OBP. It was like 495 or something like that. And I vividly remember being in Houston end of August, maybe beginning of September, and I was facing somebody that was having a good year. And I remember they threw a breaking ball, and it was a really good breaking ball. And I think I was so locked in that I might even have actually spit on it. I think I was out of the hand and I just went, like, I'm not even flinching at that. And I remember taking a step out thinking, holy cow, I don't know if I've ever been this locked in. And I vividly remember that exact explanation.
Yeah. It's a cornerstone of what I teach, and we can sit here and talk mechanics all day long, and there's a lot of, especially nowadays, there's a lot of different opinions on what guys need to do at the dish mechanically and all that. But I talk a lot about pitch selection. I talk about, being able to see spin and have an idea of what you're looking for, the area that you're looking for it in. Those are all things that, to me, like I think about Tony Gwynn, who I played with for 3 years in San Diego. He wasn't a guy that walked a lot. He wasn't a guy that had a high on base. His on base was high just because he hit for a high average, but his walk total for the year was usually, anywhere from 30 to 50 walks a year.
With 20
but what he did do was he swung at strikes, and if the first pitch was what he was looking for, he didn't miss it. He had such great barrel control where if he got a pitch that was in that heart of the plate that I talked about earlier, he hit it somewhere hard, and that's why he didn't walk. So to me, plate discipline does not directly impact your walk total. I think it makes you a better player, and it's something that eventually it can maybe turn into more walks. But what it's doing is, when you have plate discipline, you know what you're looking for. You only swing at the pitches that you're looking for, and the discipline is laying off the other pitches that are outside the zone. And I distinctly remember doing that drill with you where I sat down and we did at bats, and I spun some, I threw you change ups and all that. Because I think when you were 2 for 20, to start your first call up, there's always well, I just talked about mechanic. I got to change mechanic. My mechanics. I got to do something different. I'm 2 for 20. I need hits. Blah blah blah. And what I tried to do in doing that was I wanted to get you off that you had to make a mechanical adjustment. And no, you just need to. Your reactions need to be better. Your pitch selection needs to be better. You need to be ready for those pitches in the heart of the plate. When you get them, you don't miss them. And that drill is designed to get you off your mechanics to where now you have to pick the baseball up out of my hand, and your focus now is on the baseball and not what you're doing mechanically. So.
And that stuck with me. I mean, I can't even now when I try to talk to kids. It's all about the ball. If you don't know what I'm completely believed, I think to a fault maybe, but if you don't know what the ball's doing or you don't know what the ball looks like and before you're trying to swing, the chances of you having success aren't going to be very high. And I had to go through that humbling experience to be able to simplify it.
Yeah, because I think what happens too is I see it with guys that are power hitters. It happened to David Ortiz when I had him. My first year in Boston, he hit like 336 with like 36 homers and 130 RBIs, had a great year. But the year before, in 2005, he hit 54 homers. So he went from 54 homers to 36 homers, but his year was better. He hit for 40 points higher. Mm-hmm. He drove in more runs. His run production was better, higher walk total, less strikeout, everything was better except the home runs. So the next year, he started trying to manufacture more power because he wanted to get back to that 54 homer guy. And it was a constant struggle between he and I because he was trying to do more to generate power, which was making him late, making him loopy. Now he's missing pitches that he should be hitting. He's chasing pitches because his swing is longer. He's got to make earlier decisions. So now he's going to chase more. So that was a constant, and it's a struggle really most of the time with power hitters because they want to see balls going over the fence. And so they start trying to manufacture. It happened with Nolan last year. He won his first 60 at-bats. He didn't hit a home run. So you could see that when he was in a good count, I got to do more. And he's a simple guy, man. His mechanics are very simple, but you can see that when he was getting into good counts, his swing got bigger. The effort level went up instead of just, no, I'm just going to stay with the same stuff. I just need to get a ball in the air and barrel it. It's going to go over the fence. So once he saw a ball go over the fence, I think he hit 9 home runs in the next like 15 games. So, but it was him backing, instead of putting his foot on the accelerator, which was what he was doing for those first 60 at-bats, he had to kind of ease off a little bit, slow everything down. Let me just maximize my hard contact. When I'm doing that, the ball's going to go over the fence. So
that's awesome. I mean, I'm not going to say it's accurate because you've seen way more at bats than I have, and I'm just learning. I'm just trying to pick brains all the time from. There's been so many great people to play this game, and I can't. Our staff that we had that one year I don't think that was very fair. The accumulation of skilled men at their position, from Gary Pettis being a base running outfield guy, Wash being the infield guy that he is, you turning yourself into the hitting coach that you've become, all kept it simple. It was different tasks, but all of you kept it so simple. And then we obviously had Bobby Jones, who kept it light.
Kept it real.
He kept it real. I never forget, we were playing the Angels, and it was a day game, and somebody threw me a heater up, and I chased it, fouled it back, and I could hear him, "Can't hit that pitch, kid." And I'm just, out of all the things that are going on, that's
the 25th, 100th time of the season, he said that.
Yes. Tells everybody and anybody. Um, let's go back to that day in Wrigley when you needed a double for the cycle, but you but you had a triple instead. That ball was hit well.
Well, no, well, the story goes. Let's see. So I was always playing behind Keith Hernandez,
Hmm.
waiting my turn, and then we got rid of Keith, and here I thought I was going to get my chance, and we traded for Mike Marshall. So he became the first baseman. I was relegated back to being a utility guy and all that, and I was livid about that because I felt like I deserved a chance to play and all that. So Mike Marshall, who was a good player, but he was hurt a lot. So sure enough, we traded for him, and he was the everyday guy. And then he was kind of in and out of the lineup, and he had back issues and all that. So that game at Wrigley was my first start in a while, and he had been struggling. He was hitting like 230. So I was like, here's my chance. So we actually had a doubleheader that day. And first game of the doubleheader, I go 4 for 4. And my last at bat, I needed a double for the cycle. And as slow as I was, I already got the triple out of the way, which was a miracle in
That was a
itself.
good swing, though. That was a really good swing.
So Doug DeCenzo, who was an outfielder, we were blowing out the Cubs that day, the first game of the doubleheader. So he comes in to pick up the pitchers. He would always come in as a position player. So that's who I was hitting against that last at bat.
Oh, so left on left.
So left on left, I hit a ball. I hit a line drive in between first and second. The grass at Wrigley's like this long,
Uh-huh.
the middle of the summer. I think Andre Dawson was playing right field. So I kind of hooked it in the hole between first and second. And it first bounce it took was maybe 15 feet in the outfield.
Mm-hmm.
And it checked up because the grass was so high.
Yeah.
So that, normally it's a routine single, no way I'm going double. But as a ball, I'm running at first, it's a single. Probably wasn't hustling. So I make the turn, and Andre, who's got bad knees, he played me kind of towards right center anyway. He didn't play me to the line. He had a long way to go. So I didn't go to second. If I'd have gone to second, no doubt I hit for the cycle.
Oh, no.
Yeah, believe me, there's 2 regrets I have. There's that one, because for a guy like me who couldn't run to hit for the cycle, that's right up there with Benji Molina.
Yes.
But there was that, and at Wrigley was the other one. I was playing first. I think it was 88 or 89. First and second, nobody out. Who was it? Zimmer. Don Zimmer was the manager for the Cubs. I believe he was. He always did stuff kind of, kind of off the books, stuff you wouldn't normally do. He sends the runners first and second on a 3-1 count. I think it was Gracie. Lines the ball right to me at first. The guys were running. So 1 out. I touch first for the second out. The guy that was on second was already rounding third on his way to home. I could have jogged over there, touched the bag at second, unassisted triple play. There's only been like 2 or 3 in the history of baseball. I would have been the third one, unassisted. Actually, I would have been the second one because the third one
happened.
The next was later after me. So those are my 2 regrets, both of them at Wrigley Field.
Those are pretty. Those regrets aren't bad though. You know what I mean? Of all the things that we regret about not swinging at a certain pitch or not doing a certain thing, those are 2 pretty good regrets to live with.
Yeah, I would say positive regrets.
Yeah, very true.
Negative ones.
That's very true. Where was your favorite place to play?
To play, actually, I loved. Nobody liked hitting at Shea Stadium. I loved hitting at Shea Stadium. You never played there, so you wouldn't know. But I loved the feeling there. I saw the ball really well. And the other one was the Astrodome.
Really?
Everybody hated the Astrodome, but because it was so big. I didn't care because I
Mhm.
wasn't a home run guy anyway, but I saw the ball good there. I love the conditions in there. It was always perfect.
Yeah.
I never minded playing in domes. So, you knew you were gonna you knew you were gonna play every day. There was not going to be a chance of a rain out. You
Mhm.
always get that 50-50 feeling going to the park where you think, oh, we're probably not going to play.
Especially in Seattle.
Feeling with so
Especially in Seattle.
yeah, yeah,
You
exactly.
always know. And then so those are your two favorite places to play. Now, fast forward, now your next 16 years, you got to watch the league evolve. So now, as a coach, where's your favorite place to go now? I would imagine the new, because I played at the new, what is it, Citibank, I believe the new one
City,
is. City
where
Field.
at?
City Field is now the new, it's not New Shea, but
Yeah,
City.
yeah, yeah. It's a new Met Stadium.
That was, I
Um,
played there. That's probably not your favorite, but
yeah. One place I failed to mention as a player that I loved playing in was Dodger Stadium, and that I say that because that's how I feel as a coach. Even though it's tough as a hitting coach going in there, facing that staff, when scoring 3, 4, 5 runs is like the greatest thing. Uh, I love the atmosphere at Dodger Stadium. Uh, it always feels like an event. It feels like I always kind of look around. I'm like, this is the big leagues. It's always a big crowd. There's always celebrities in the stands. It just always felt like like you were in the big leagues, and that's the way I felt when I went there as a player playing there. Even back then, their pitching was really good. It was always going to be tough going in there, but I always felt good at the plate there. It just had a lot of energy.
yeah, you can't get away from it. That's how it felt for me in Texas. I mean, when you got George Bush Jr. sitting in the on deck circle, when you got, country stars coming in, and I'm putting my bat weight on, and I got people that I've never thought I'd ever meet. Hey kid, how you doing?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
throws you, it throws you off. It doesn't, and I think I was very spoiled with Texas being my first kind of experience, because like you said, I played in Dodger Stadium one time, and it was a spring training game, but it was the last spring training game. It was like
hmm
our freeway series.
Oh, when you were the Angels.
Yeah, when I was the very next year when I went to the Angels, but we only played one game. But
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, especially now that they're really good. So every game's sold out and high energy.
yeah. So after, gosh, you play 16 years, you win a World Series. Whether you only got called up or not, you still won it because you were still a part of the game clinching when you guys clinched the division, right?
Yeah.
So you have that. You you did everything. You almost hit 300. I mean, I think you were like right at like 285 or 290, something like that. I mean, it's
hmm
a couple extra base hits a week. You hit 300. So now you spend another 16 more years. Why do you want to be? Why did you want to stay in the game? Did you think you were going to stay in it for 16 more years, or was there just that love inside of you for baseball that really hasn't left?
I think that's probably the main thing. I think my last probably 3 or 4 years in the big leagues, I was almost considered like an extra coach. I wasn't playing a ton, uh, and had really good relationships with the players. Had a really good relationship with Bochy. Uh, so I felt always like I was an extra coach. So Kevin Towers, who was a general manager of the Padres my last year there as a player, he asked me if I wanted to do the hitting coordinator thing. I hadn't thought I thought I was just going to shut it down and not play and just figure something out later. Always thought I would coach in some capacity. Um, so I thought about it and took it, and he promised me, he said, if you do a good job, you're going to be our major league hitting coach sooner than you think. So I did it, and I guess I did a good job, and they offered me the big league job the next year, the next off season. So I think like many times in my life, uh, I think I just try and do things the right way. whether it's as a player, treating people with respect, no matter who it was, clubbies and trainers and managers and coaches. And I think when you get a good reputation for treating people with respect and doing things the right way, I think things tend to fall into place for you a little bit better. So that's why I looked at it. I did the hitting coordinator job. I had no idea how to do it. Listened to the Bill Brick, who was our field coordinator at the time, and Ty Waller, who was our farm director, and they kind of taught me the ropes and tried to do stuff the right way, try to have good relationships with the players and treat them with respect no matter who they were. So I think it worked out and ended up getting the big league job. And I've tried to do the same thing in the big leagues. Work hard, give the players what they need. Not only what they need, what I feel like they need. Do a good job for my manager. Take that responsibility away from the manager, because he's got so much that, all managers have so much that they got to worry about. So if I can handle the hitters and he can feel like he's got confidence in me to handle that and that he doesn't need to be a part of that, I think I've done my job. So
that's a great explanation. Let's switch gears a little bit. I'm going to give you some single words. Call it a little baseballism activity. I'm going to give you one word. We'll do it 5 times, and you just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay. Does it have to be one word?
No. I'm going to give you one word, and then whatever happens, free range.
All right.
Patience.
Swinging at strikes. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. A lot of times people put patience into like walking, stuff like that. Patience to me is just swinging at strikes, swinging at what you're looking for.
I like it. What about, you touched on it just a couple seconds ago, respect?
Doesn't matter who it is, man. It could be the bottom clubby on the totem pole in the clubhouse, the guy that does the laundry, or it could be the owner of the team. I think you treat everybody with respect, the respect that you would want to be treated as if you were doing the same job.
What about learning?
You never stop learning. Here I am, 57 years old. I've been in the game a long time. I'm still learning things from players, whether it's vocabulary or it's a different way to say something, or maybe a drill. I continue to see things, not only guys on that I have as players, but I see guys on other teams doing. And if they make sense to me, I incorporate it into what my little toolbox is. And so you never stop learning.
Just to piggyback off that, do you feel like when you were playing and now, do you feel like much has changed actually? I know the scenery's changed. I know the players have gotten better, bigger, faster, leaner. There's mobility. There's mindfulness training. There's so many different things that have been integrated into the game. But if we turn the layers back, do you really feel like the game has changed from the player's perspective that much, of when you see success from when you played versus when you see success from the guys that play now?
I think the absolutes of hitting, the mechanics, the basic absolutes, the bottom line things you have to do as a hitter have not changed. I think there's probably drills now that the guys have done, I would say, over the last 5 years that weren't around 25 years ago. But they're basically working on things to get you to those absolutes that we all agree with as hitting coaches that have been around for a long time, players that have been around for a long time. I see guys pulling stuff out that we did when we were in the minor leagues. The drill with I think Robinson Cano made it famous because they did a video on him doing it on the field where he put a screen
Mm-hmm.
kind of on the edge of home plate and he was doing flips with the screen there.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember doing that in the minor leagues. We did it in the cage, and we got
Right.
up against the net of the cage and
Mm-hmm.
did flips that way to keep you from casting and getting outside the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, you know, it's funny. There's some things that have evolved, and there's some things that, you know, guys just revert back to something that maybe a hitting coach they have did when he was playing, and they tried and they like it, and it gives them that feeling that they want. So
Yeah, that's true. Let's go with simple.
repeatable. To me, simple is repeatable. I had a hitter one time when I got a new job with a team. I won't say who it is, but I called him up in the off season. We were getting to know each other, and one of the staple questions I would ask guys is, you know, what are your checkpoints? What are your keys in your swing? What do you do well? You know, what are the things you get away from when you're struggling? And literally, when I was writing it down, there was 14 things that he mentioned in that conversation as checkpoints, keys. So that to me is not simple. That to me is a lot of thinking going on, a lot of stuff that he's got running through his mind that splits his focus between his mechanics and picking up the baseball. And so to me, simple means easy to repeat. And when you can repeat good things happen more often.
Yeah, I think Story said it the other day, and I'm sure it's something, I don't know if he learned from you, but probably I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't, where he talked about a good swing is never rushed.
Right.
I just think that makes a lot of sense. Last one, and I think I enjoy this one the most because, you know, hopefully as a coach, when I'm able to experience one, I can have the same joy in my facial expressions. Because when I asked Story about playoffs, to see his face change, when I asked Johnny Gomes about World Series and you see his face change, I have to ask, World Series.
World Series, joy. It's what we all play for. I know sometimes you can get sidetracked by the money and the playing time and the slumps but the bottom line, and I think that's what's so good about our guys in Colorado is they get it. They get that the reason we play the game is to get to the World Series. So when you have somebody like Daniel Murphy on your team who's been there and understands, understands he has been to it, right? I'm saying he has. I know he had that one
Yeah.
playoff where he hit a ton of home runs.
Yeah, with the Mets. It was when they lost to the Royals.
Yeah.
That spot. And then the next year
Exactly.
he went to the Nats.
Exactly, yes.
When they took out, or when they told Verlander he was done, and then he didn't want to be done, and then he went out and was done.
Right. So it to me, it's just it's culmination of all the hard work, and that's what we work for. When I won it with the Red Sox in 07, certainly did a lot more, I think, labor to earn that ring because I was a coach from day one. The '86 Mets, I was a call up that had 20 plate appearances. So it was a much different feeling. Being able to celebrate, I wasn't able to celebrate in '86. I wasn't there when they were celebrating. So it's just that release of energy of realizing. I remember sitting in the dugout next to our trainer, Paul Assard, and we were really nervous, even when we were 3-0 up on the Rockies. And I think that at the time the score of the game was 4-2 for game 4.
Mm-hmm.
But I was still nervous,
Well, you never know.
Yeah, you never know. And I started thinking about the year before I got let go from the Padres, didn't know what I was going to do, get the job with the Red Sox, go to spring training, nervous, all this stuff. Great team that I'm being a part of now, and here I am at last out of the World Series, and how far I came from a year before. and and all those memories start flooding your mind, and it was joy.
I mean, I can't imagine, to put it in perspective for the kids that watch this, to understand that you get called up in September and that's your World Series window, and then you can't play, and then you didn't go to another one the rest of your career.
No, that's, I get called up in '86, and there was a talk of the Mets being a dynasty. Most of the players were young, pitching staff was young. Win the World Series in '86. It's like, oh, we're going to rattle off like 3 or 4 during this time frame, and '87. Dwight gets the drug problems and gets suspended. Bunch of guys got hurt. Had a pretty good year, but back then it was only the winner of the division went to the playoffs. There was no wild card or anything. '88, we go back to the playoffs. That's the year the Dodgers, Kirk Gibson hits a home run against the A's to win it. They beat us in the playoffs. We were up at the time 2-1, playing at home. 4-2 lead or 3-1 lead. Doc's on the mound, 2 outs in the 9th. We win. We go up 3-1 with another game. Let's see, we go up 3-1, 4, and I think we play. I'm not sure what it's a little foggy, but anyway, we would have gone up 3-1.
Mm-hmm.
Davey Johnson goes out there to take Dwight out of the game because he just walked Mike Davis, put the tying run at the plate. Doc talks him out of it. He leaves Doc in the game. Mike Scioscia hits a 2-run homer to tie the game, 3-3. We ended up losing that game. So instead of going up 3-1, now we're down 2. We're tied 2-2. And then I believe they won the next game to go up 3-2. We won Game 6. 3-3, and then they won Game 7. They blew us out. So,
that's the perspective. Like, this isn't just to open the book. They were talking 16 years, and then a couple years into coaching, you go back to something that you didn't get to experience your entire playing career. And I just think sometimes kids lose track of time because it doesn't take much time. If I want to find, for me, if I want to find out things on Dave Magadan, I could Google it and bam, it's here. It's now. I can have whatever information I can. But to earn something in this world, it takes a lot of time. And sometimes it takes years. And I think that's important for the next generation to kind of fill in, which, if there's kids out there listening that want to be big leaguers, what would you tell them? How would you tell them what can they do to become a big leaguer?
There's many things that you need to do. I think probably number one is it takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of mental prep to accept, because it's according to where you're at. If the kid's already in pro ball, he's already experienced the grind of a 140-game season. If he's a high school kid, he's only probably played 30 games in a season. College, they've played 50 or 60. So there's a special kind of mental toughness that you have to achieve to be able to grind through 140 games in the minor leagues, 162 in the big leagues. And the roller coaster ride of being an everyday player at those levels, and understanding that you have to play today, good, bad, or indifferent, turn the page, play the next game, turn the page, play the next game. You cannot be thinking too far back, too far forward. You got to always live in the moment. and play for the moment, and then turn the page. And then next day is almost like a new season. Turn the page. Next day, new season. Turn the page. And if you could achieve that, as well as doing everything else that you have to do, hard work, preparation, God-given talent, the ability to make adjustments, all those things are ingredients to being a really good major league player. But to me, the hardest hurdle is getting through, and the mental acuity that it takes to get through a season.
There you have it, kids. You want to be a big leaguer? Write it down. You and I, we can sit here and talk all day. And I appreciate you for taking the time to come on here and help some kid that's going to benefit from this, some young kid or some young woman that has a career in sports or a career in baseball that wants to achieve the things she has. And Mags, I can't thank you enough for coming on today.
DR, you're always one of my favorites, man. You know that. Share same birthday. So it's always nice to spend some time with you and talk some baseball.